Now we come to the second half of this chapter, more practical applications, again in the context of the church following on, but with much broader application than just to the church. Many of these, well, all of them in one sense applying to life as a whole, but obviously following his exhortation at the beginning of the chapter that we present our bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And this as part, these simple, plain, but often challenging commands as part of that reasonable service. It's difficult to follow a particular theme through them. They stand by themselves, so obviously one may be more closely linked to the other, but very simply and wonderfully and straightforwardly put by the Apostle. John, is somebody at the door trying to get in maybe? Somebody's got boxed in. Thanks. Yeah. All I'm going to do is really go through them. I think to give them any justice, that's all one can try to straightforwardly do. The first part of the chapter, very much speaking of spiritual gifts, relating to the church, how they are to be used, particular gifts, and that all members each have a particular gift to use. But then now, verse 9, applying generally to everyone, all these commands to every individual believer. And the first one, let love be without dissimulation. Abhor that which is evil, cleave to that which is good. Let love be without dissimulation, literally not hypocritical, and the Greek word is anupikrotos, but let it be genuine. Let love be genuine and real. Be honest in your love one for another. And it's interesting that it comes with this immediately. Abhor that which is evil. Cleave to that which is good. Love what is good. Hate what is evil. Keep away from that which is evil. Cleave to, stick close to that which is good. He will go on then to continue the application. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love in honour, preferring one another. But there is, in one sense, it's all the one application in one sense, but firstly, love is to be genuine. Don't be hypocritical in the way that you treat people, as the Pharisees would feign respect to the Lord. When the lawyer who came to ask him about who is, and then said, who is my neighbour, he calls him master, but he is tempting him. And the Lord would have us to be open in one sense and genuine. Spoken of the Lord himself, that in Psalm 45 verse 7, thou hast loved righteousness and hated wickedness. And although he in one sense loved the Pharisees, he loved their souls, he sought their salvation, yet he was plain and clear in where he stood in relation to their own doctrine and soul. And I think that is what is implied, that we are to be open and honest and straightforward to pretend to go along with something that we don't really. I don't know, it's difficult to think of immediate examples, but I remember in the Church of England, the Evangelical Church of England, where nearly all the people there had some sort of evangelical profession of faith, but the clergy would have chapter meetings where they would invite, and all would be gathered, the local chapter, which would include many Anglo-Catholic clergy. And in all honesty, couldn't accept these folk as genuine believers. They didn't profess evangelical faith in any sense. And although one's not rude to them, it seemed to me one of the barriers to going into the Anglican ministry. How can you accept these people, work with them as it were, whereas in one sense you're being unequally yoked with them? But and I think the Lord would have us let love be without dissimulation, be genuine and honest, and don't hide. It's much better in one sense to be so. And in that, abhor that which is evil, keep away from that which is evil, cleave, hold to that which is good. And amongst the brothers, amongst the Lord's people, be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love. It's interesting, there are two words used. There's the normal one for brotherly love, Philadelphia, but there is another one, if I get it right, Philostorgos, which, this is the dictionary definition, the mutual love of parents and children and wives and husbands, loving affection, prone to love, loving tenderly, chiefly of the reciprocal tenderness of parents and children. I might say family love, but family love as well as brotherly love amongst the people of God, a mutual affection amongst the family of God, treating other believers in one sense as family, and as such in honour, preferring one another, having in a humble mind, esteeming the others better than ourselves, and esteeming the good parts in others, skating over the not so good parts, but in honour preferring one another and giving way, letting others, as it were, or having concern for others and for others' affairs, not in a busybody type of way, but in a kindly way, having a concern for their well-being. And then this verse 11, not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. And I think in the old language of the AV we can interpret it as simply being not slothful in business, as in our ordinary callings, our work, but I believe it is all encompassing. I have heard it said, oh, this just applies to Christian service. I don't think that's quite true. It wouldn't be right to be very zealous in Christian service and to be lazy at work in your callings. But I think it is that seeking a quality that we are to be in all the things that God gives us to do. Whatsoever your hand findeth to do, do it with all your might, and be wholehearted. In one sense, if we believe what we are doing is the Lord's will, which hopefully everything we are doing, we believe is in good conscience is the Lord's will, in our families, in the church, in our callings, that we are there. Even of old, if we were a slave, that for the moment is the Lord's will. If they could purchase their liberty, very good. But as it was, that is where God had put them, Therefore, serve the Lord in that position. And the Lord promises to bless. There's the bit you'll think of is in Ephesians chapter 6. Ephesians chapter 6. Servants, verse 5, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in singleness of heart as unto Christ, not with eye service as men pleasers, but as servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, with good will, doing service as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man doeth, the same shall he receive of the Lord, whether he be bond or free. The Lord will ultimately reward you. He is the one who sees and receives all things, and he is the one who will... No, come in. He is the one who will... very welcome. He is the one who will reward such. I read a little portion, it's slightly obscure, 1 Samuel 10 and verse 7, where Saul has been anointed, as Samuel is declaring to him what shall happen, and how he will meet a group of prophets, and the Spirit of God will come upon him, and he will become another man. He will be endued with power to be the king. And he says this, and it's slightly obscure, but 1 Samuel 10 verse 7, he gives him a whole list, a number of signs, and he says this, and let it be, when these signs are come unto thee, that thou do as occasion serve thee, for God is with thee. Now you will be king. Whatever, in one sense, you are called to do as occasion serves you, as you have opportunity, as you believe is right, for God is with you. And for the believer, if we are doing what we believe to be the will of God, we may assume that God is with us. And so we may labour and be not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, that he is the one who has given us this precious responsibility. But in all things, with our children, we're given this responsibility. We can do it unto the Lord. And in our service in the church, whatever it may be, not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. And they said of slaves in the ancient world that Christian slaves were sought after because they were could be relied on not to steal. And slaves, it was a byword that they would pilfer and steal from their masters. In one sense, you can hardly blame them, but Christian slaves wouldn't. And here, in one sense, Paul is encouraging them to be fervent in whatever the Lord gives them to do, and also, obviously, in the church, in the service of the Lord, to do it as unto the Lord, to prepare and to be conscientious and so on. But in all these things, with an eye to the Lord. Then, slightly differently, verse 12, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer, in difficulties, rejoicing in hope, looking forward to the Lord's deliverance, rejoicing that he will deliver, and it may be ultimately that he takes us from this world, but there will be deliverance for the believer, and we may rejoice in that and look forward to it. However hard the burden may be, we may rejoice in hope, and in one sense we must rejoice in hope and look forward to the time when our tribulation is no more. Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, or literally abiding in tribulation, not panicking, not fretting, but trusting the Lord in that tribulation. Yeah, we must pray for help, for deliverance, but trusting the Lord, that's our greatest strength. And I know I mention it from time to time in Isaiah chapter 30, in returning and rest is your salvation, in quietness and trust is your strength. The Jews, when Sennacherib threatened them, was threatening them, wished to send envoys to Egypt, rush off to Egypt to find help. And Isaiah said, no, turn back to the Lord, look to him, he will help. And he did. And in one sense for all of us, patient in tribulation, and the next one following on, continuing instant in prayer. Never forget to pray. Look to the Lord in your difficulties, in your troubles. Be very ready, instant in prayer. He will guide, he will help, he will uphold, he will give strength, whatever the difficulty is. The Lord is there to hear and to call upon. And so we're thinking, Psalm 46, the Lord is a very present help in trouble, very present, and we may be instant, present as it were, in prayer. And then distributing to the necessity of the saints, being happy to help the needy saints, practically helping them, given to hospitality. The word literally in the Greek is to pursue hospitality. It's the same word in a negative sense used to persecute. Follow after it. Be sort of earnest in seeking to show hospitality. And as you may know, it means literally the love of strangers. It doesn't have to mean literally sort of providing food, but it's showing care for strangers. It may mean that, but it's showing interest, showing care for strangers. Distributing, very practical, to the necessity of saints, given to hospitality. And then these, in one sense, they're similar in many ways to the end of the chapter. Bless them which persecute you. Bless and curse not. Those that persecute, bless them. Do not, as he will go on to say later on, do not return evil for evil, but rather, as in the last verse of the chapter, be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. And the first step is to pray for them. Pray for them, bless them which persecute you, bless and curse not. We're obviously more willing to bless those that bless us, but bless those which persecute us and hurt us. Michael Payton was saying, going in the car, and he said when he was a curate, I think in Southall, he used to work with a clergyman, an Anglican clergyman, who, if somebody let him out into the line of traffic or showed some kindness to him, he would say something like this: "May your tyres not wear out." And he would bless them. But we are called, in one sense, to show kindness, blessing to those who are not so kind to us. But anyway, bless them which persecute, bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of a sympathetic mind in both instances, those who are sad Be sympathetic with them, those that are happy. Be sympathetic with them. It may not be fitting, in one sense, in our situation. Those that rejoice, we may be feeling sad, but it's good to show sympathy and to fellowship, fellow rejoicing with them. Weep with them that weep. Don't be harsh or sort of unkind and, as it were, put us. We can't be too hard on those that are weeping. Can't be always saying just, now come on, pull your socks up. And but we are to show sympathy, and I think the context is really of the Lord's people in particular. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Be the same mind, of one mind, agreeing in matters, not being argumentative, not disputing, not difficult. He doesn't mention it here, but there's this constant concern about arguing over words and having fruitless and pointless arguments. We will have discussions, and we must in one sense discuss things, but be of the same mind, be agreeable one to another. Mind not high things, be not engaged in the sort of high things that in one sense are above us. That beautiful Psalm of David, though the king, Psalm 131, Lord, my heart is not haughty, nor mine eyes lofty, neither do I exercise myself in great matters, or in things too high for me. And we have wonderfully high things, don't we, in the Lord, in His Word, very glorious things. And it's not, I think it's more human high things, but condescend to men of low estate, be happy to have fellowship with, to the brothers and sisters who are humble and poor and so on. The Earl of Shaftesbury in the 19th century, very sort of high, humanly speaking, aristocrat, very happy to be a patron of ragged schools, the open air mission. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. It's the great privilege, it's the great blessing of church fellowship, of Christian fellowship. And I'm sure we all have been greatly blessed through fellowship with those who are humble, who are not in a grand place in the world, who are lowly. And I think some of our best friends, a bus driver and so on, they're humble people, but there is great blessing in condescending. I don't like to use the word to men of low estate. They're often more than our equals in terms of grace and godliness, particularly the elderly folk, very godly, very faithful. We've had wonderful fellowship. We used to give hospitality to a brother who came in from Romford in East London. He had a stroke at birth. He couldn't use his left arm. He was not very well educated. He left school at 14, very humble. But he had such a simple, glorious faith and very courageous. He would travel on the public transport late not very late at night, but 7, 8 o'clock at night, going home. Very vulnerable, but the Lord kept him. And very precious. Be not wise in your own conceits. Don't be proud. There's that solemn verse in Proverbs, seest thou a man wise in his own conceit? There is more hope of a fool than of him. Look to the Lord, that precious promise in Proverbs 3 about not trusting your own mind, but committing all things into the Lord's hands, and He will direct your paths. Wonderful promise. I must go on. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Don't repay wickedness with hurt. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. I remember reading early on in the Christian life a biography of George Muller, and how he kept very detailed accounts. Everything was listed. He received all this money, but everything was accounted for, all the purchase of whatever he purchased there in ledgers, and because to honour this principle, provide things honest in the sight of all men. So he could show that he had used the donations he had been given to in the right way, in the sight of all men, not just for believers. Believers may say, well, we trust you, but it is for all men. We have to provide our accounts to the Charity Commission. There's nothing wrong with it. I had a letter recently from HMRC wishing to check our payroll and expense payments. Who's paying your payroll? Who's paying your expenses? I don't mind. It's good in one sense that we can, and that these principles are in UK law and so on. That's what we are to be able to show. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. As much as lieth in you, if it be possible, verse 18, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Be at peace, be peaceable, don't provoke others. And I think what follows is primarily what he intends. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. Though others may provoke you, try to live peaceably with them. Avenge not yourselves, but rather leave it in the Lord's hands. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. I can't remember quite how many times I've quoted this to young teenage lads in South London. Oh, sir, he cussed my mum. I have to exact vengeance, and so the fight starts, and it has to be returned. It's sort of honourable that you have to, and I would say, no, leave it, walk away. In one sense, it's far more solemn to leave it with the Lord. The Lord will deal with it. The Lord, if it is foolish and wicked, the Lord will repay. And it's a far more fearful thing for the Lord to repay it than for us to repay it. Obviously, we must defend ourselves in one sense. I'm not saying I'm not a pacifist, but we're not called, particularly as individuals, to seek vengeance. And it's terribly destructive to society if there is that idea going on that we must, in honour, seek vengeance. You may know the Pashtun in Afghanistan have a very strict moral, as it were, code. Then there are other things that are very, very strict on hospitality, but part of it is that you must return vengeance. This is Winston Churchill, you may say, is probably prejudiced. And he says this: the Pashtun tribes are always engaged in private or public war. Every man is a warrior, a politician and a theologian. Every large house is a real feudal fortress. Every family cultivates its vendetta. Every clan its feud. Nothing is ever forgotten, and very few debts are left unpaid. And this elsewhere, the mafia, different mafia groups in southern Italy, these vendettas can go on for 30 years or more, and many people can lose their lives. I don't think it's breaking the official secrets. Once worked on a case, a Russian man owed a large amount of money to some other Russian men. Twice he was kidnapped. Second time, very, very badly beaten up and was in fear of his life. But thankfully the police intervened, and the men were prosecuted and received 10 years in jail. But there is that. We must avenge these things, but for the Christian believer, it's with the Lord. Leave it with the Lord. For it is the Lord says, it is his to repay. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. And so he can go on, therefore, if thine enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing, thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. We have in the scriptures, don't we, wonderful examples of forgiveness. David forgave Abner, and then I think Amasa, who was Absalom's general, but sadly both times Joab sought to and did kill them out of vengeance. But David was very willing to forgive them. Alfred the Great defeated the Vikings, not sure where, but not far from here, possibly down near Westbury. Soundly defeated them, but he was willing to forgive them if they would then make peace, if they would then convert, which probably wasn't the right idea, but be baptized, or if their leader Guthrum would be baptized. But he didn't seek to go, as it were, back to Denmark and destroy things there. I'm no great historian, but I think the Marshall Plan in restoring Germany and in Europe after the war has had a far longer good effect, where they put great help into West Germany, the Americans, and rather than the very punitive Versailles Treaty at the end of the First World War that put very strong, as it were, punitive conditions, fines, as it were, on Germany after that. There's a lady some of us know whose son, I think, was bullied when he went to school, and she, not very seriously, but they were nasty to him, she invited the bullies round to tea. And it stopped, it did stop. So there is obviously, in one sense, a practical application. If we have opportunity to show kindness, we have Elisha, when the Syrians come, he simply blinds them, he takes them back to Samaria, brings them as prisoners, and says to the king, and the king says, shall he kill them? He says, no, give them food and drink, send them back to Syria. And it says after that, the bands of the Syrians came no more into the land of Israel. And now, I know these things are difficult, but be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. Pray for them, show kindness. Let me just read, just in conclusion, a few quotes. This is a few days ago. Our friend Ferguson Kofi sent this on this very topic. A whole list of, I won't go through them all. This is by John Flavel, the old Puritan. When carnal reason says, my enemy deserves to be hated, let conscience reply, but doth God deserve to be disobeyed? Thus and thus hath he done, and so hath he wronged me. But what hath God done that I should wrong him? If my enemy dares boldly to break the peace, shall I be so wicked as to break the precept? If he fears not to wrong me, shall not I fear to wrong God? As a carnal heart thinks revenge its glory, so the gracious heart is content that forgiveness should be his glory. Suppose that by revenge you might destroy one enemy, yet by exercising the Christian's temper you might conquer three: your own lust, Satan's temptation, and your enemy's heart. And then this is Thomas Fuller, the noblest revenge is to forgive. Thomas Watson, we forgive others not because they deserve it, but because we ourselves are forgiven. And then Thomas Manton, revenge is sweet, nothing more pleasing to nature and more contrary to grace. Carnal nature is prone to revenge, but grace prevails and inclines to a pardon. And then Matthew Henry, those that revenge are the conquered, and those that forgive are the conquerors. Just one thing I heard recently, and I'll close on this. A Jewish man, his obituary recently, very elderly, as a young boy, really teenage boy, I think, survived the Holocaust, got through, lost most of his family, as many did. But he said, at the end, I thought I would take revenge on the Nazis by having a large family. He had just four children, but I thought it was such a nice way. They had sought to obliterate him and his family, and that was his revenge, but a gracious way of going about it. And may the Lord help us in all these things to seek his grace, have his grace, to walk in his ways. Amen. Now, our second hymn, number 574.